All right, welcome folks. Mil-Spec Ops Funky here. This is going to be your SITREP. It is Monday. It is 6/6/2022. And without further ado, let's hop on over to the board. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and bell for notification so you get the latest and greatest. And also don't forget to download the app. It's free and it'll make your life a lot easier. So, all right, without further ado, over here on Skyglass. Got a little 3-ship I was watching right here. We're going to get into some of the details, but little 3-ship rolling out. Looks to be kind of on a trajectory, either headed to Guantanamo Bay or to Puerto Rico. Not totally sure yet. These are Army aircraft, and you can see up here, these are the ones that got all the little things hanging off of them. So they're kind of like recon birds, right? So, but don't see that very often. 3 of them rolling out. Again, we'll look at it here in just a minute, but sitting at around 372 aircraft up, and the average is about 250. So it is a slightly heavier traffic day. Let's get into the watch list real fast, just kind of show you what we got going on, mainly here in the U.S. But if we take a look, you can see a flurry of P8 activity, and I think those NAs right there are kind of tied into the P8s. They don't want to be tracked. And so we've got Night Watch up, which is the Doomsday Bird, a bunch of P8s, an E6, which is a TACAMO, and that's going to be your command center, airborne command center, and then an E3 Sentry that has also just gotten airborne. So, all right, now let's get over to the heavies to kind of break into that. I'll show you very light from a Euro standpoint. Now, this is 12-hour tracks. You can see Turkey seems to be doing a lot of stuff right now, very engaged. And then we've got the Brits. Looks like they've got an A400 airborne headed over to that same general region, and then something down into Spain. So there seems to be a little more uptick in activity over in the Spain region. So let's see if we can get this thing to load up and take us back over to the CONUS side of the house, and we can see what's going on from a heavy lift perspective. A little more spread out this morning than what we usually have been seeing. Most of the stuff we look at are going to be really East Coast centric. It looks like today they have launched from the East Coast but are all headed westbound. So very interesting. And notice we got a little flight out here in Bermuda. We just had Germany and Bermuda too the other day. One of their dignitaries come in. So don't know if they're related, but you don't see things headed out to Bermuda very often either. But you can see pretty good amount of heavy traffic. And then if we get into the air refuelers, again, East Coast to about central U.S. Right now, which seems to be kind of the way it's been going now for a couple months. But you can see we still have a couple P8s. Oh, there is a one P8 right there just kind of hanging in that mix, but it's not really part of the refueler concept, but it's there nonetheless. Could not get it to disappear on me. So, all right, and then this is what you got going on over Europe. So you can see, remember, we've got an open exercise happening. You can see a little bit of refueling up over England. Some stuff down over kind of the northern Africa side. And then also you've got your regular stuff over Constanta. So, all right, let me get back to our main board here. And let's start peeling the onion. So we're going to start off here. We've got Flashbang. Looks like he is back in the White House today. Actually bolted out yesterday. I think they got spooked after they had that little incident take shape. So we'll look at that here in just a second when we get a little further down. Kind of an interesting deal if you didn't see it or hear about it. But nonetheless, so into the news. We got Russia, as they are seeing an extra $6.4 billion in oil revenue in June. So our sanctions are perfect, exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Said no one ever. So it looks like it's hurting us more than it's hurting them. Simply amazing, but they know that. They're just idiots. And then here's kind of the fallout from all of that. And so you can see there is no immediate cure for sky-high gasoline prices. Folks, they're going around and changing the pumps to double digits. So that means they are expecting things to break 9 and get into the $10 a gallon. I can't even imagine what that's going to do to our economy and to people in general, families. It's a lot of money, and you're putting in your gas tank just to get to work and back. So, okay, now that we talk a little bit about this panic going on up with POTUS I hate even using that same term in effect with the crime family, but check this out. It looks like they were briefly evacuated after plane entered restricted airspace. We're going to take a quick look at that. I just want to show you where it came in. Now, keep in mind, my little red circle there is, it's a little small compared to what he usually uses, but I just want to show you what had happened. Now, this, I think, is the bird 609 SE. They kind of bumped into that airspace, and you're going to see immediately as they got into it, you see the no call sign helo pop up. That's going to be U.S. Coast Guard, and then there's another one that comes into the area as well. And so it looks like they went into panic mode, and they actually left shortly thereafter back to the White House. I don't know if that was part of the plan or if they just got spooked, but it was just simply a small Cessna that basically flew into the area briefly, and I guess they didn't communicate appropriately. It just could have been a new pilot or something, right? But yeah, you can just see the birds that came through that area. There's another one right there. So could have been a couple that could have been the ones. I'm not really dead set on the one that I looked at originally, but those are the only two that really kind of penetrated that airspace. And then, of course, you've got this no call sign helo in a panic out over the water as well. So as I said, they basically bailed shortly after that, went back to the White House. So kind of comical, I find. But anyway, nonetheless, let's go over here to the volcanoes, the stuff that really matters. And so you can see it slowed down a little bit. We did have yesterday, we had one up here in Russia that was spewing up to 50,000 foot. And it has since stopped. I'm sure there is a ash cloud somewhere out here over the Pacific. We've got Ibu, which is different. We've been looking at Dukono and Krakatoa, and those are not firing. This one is now. And then these here in this general region. Now let's get over and just take a quick gander at the aircraft that people are watching. This is Forte 11 out over the Black Sea. Again, we're running routes there because they are trying to protect something here in Constanta. They say it's the wheat and grain. Sure. I will just go with that for now. So, and then we got Mule 21, which is an air refueler just popped in the area. We were looking at and this is Constanta. So this is air refueler. That means you got fighters in the general region more than likely. And then we've got an E3 that's not being tracked right now, at least on this, that's hanging out over Constanta, just doing those tight loop circles, okay? So they're watching something. Now, let's get into the interesting stuff here now. Okay, now you know I have changed over from my regular radar to this one. Okay, this is for flight. You got to pay to play for this, but that's okay. I don't mind. It is an interesting a consortium of data in terms of NOTAMs and the TFRs that are out there. So we'll just kind of go through a couple. I'm not going to blast all of them, just to show you what's going on. We get over to the Ukraine area. That's where it gets a little interesting. But you can see we've got this one started out January 5th. So this is actually an all-year exercise in that general region over Kansas. But you get into some of the others. Military op, that is effective today for about a 3-hour window. That stuff is popping up. June seems to be the crazy time for all of that. Same thing here. Another one. 2H military op today up until 1 p.m. The other till 7 p.m. Some of these get really interesting. They are tied into drones and night vision and all kinds of different stuff. This is another, looks to be exercise. Now notice this one, May 30th to July 1st. So that, and then we've got this one out over the Atlantic. Again, if you read these, some of these are really kind of crazy, but June 6th, this is just a couple-hour window today. And let me see if I can find one that we can just peel the onion on a little further. Nope, that is not the one. Here's one right here. Snoopy. This one is the, I guess that's what they're calling it. So West MOA, 6,000 foot up to, but not including 18,000 feet. This looks like it is a, based on that altitude and stuff on the area, it looked like it's a helo activity. But that is today from 9:45 to 3:45, a little 6-hour window. As you can see, lots of little boxes in here. Again, this is stuff that you know, when you see some of that activity going on with the aircraft flying in those regions, if you just kind of peel that onion a little bit, we can actually go in and look at what is going on. Danger area activated March 31st to June 30th. Don't know what that's about. This is going to be flashbang. Actually, this is DC right here. Let me just look at this and see if we've got, no, nothing's pulling up. Let me get into that circle a little wider and see if it pulls up. All right, exercise schedule, July 15th, 2021, all the way to 2022, July 14th. So this one's about to end, but it's tied to Quantico, laser research. All right, now let's get over to Europe just to look at some of these because they are interesting. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff here to cover. It's very impossible to get through it all. I mean, honestly, one more here real fast. Exercise June 1 to June 7th, very specific. And then this one here, June 6th, that's, these two are both active right now. And you can see that's off of the Bahamas. So, okay. Now over to Europe. Let's get over here and just show you what's going on. This is where it gets a little interesting because if you'll notice, this is Ukraine, and you can see all of the boxes that are associated with this. Now, this is the crazy part. These boxes right here are issued by the Ruskies. So that is the Russians basically sectioning off airspace in this region. This one right here, for example, temporary, May 10th to June 10th, very specific date. That's in Belarus right here. And that's issued by the Russians, just north of Kiev. So that kind of gives you an idea, maybe where they're pushing into. You can see it does kind of coincide with their current grab of Ukraine, right, along the border and everything else. And then you've got stuff out here where you can see where they blocked off things in the Black Sea. June 5th, yesterday, to June 11th. Again, these are NOTAMs issued by the Russians, not this isn't U.S. stuff, okay? And so another one right here, May 31st to June 30th, active NOTAM. You can see it right here out over the Black Sea. And, of course, Turkey's got their own issued. We've got U.S. stuff going on, NATO stuff up here. But it's just an interesting data point, to say the least. And, of course, this one is also issued by it's over the airspace of Ukraine, and that is issued by the Russians as well, June 5th to June 11th. So looks like they are controlling most of that airspace right there. So that's why you see us fly right up to that border and not penetrate it, okay? Again, if you zoom in, it's just a hot mess. There is so much stuff in here to cover, and they aren't long-term things. They're actually going to be short-term windows of active things going on. Here's one for you. Let's get up here over this general area. This is air policing mission, May 2nd to June 30th. And you can kind of see where they're located, just right out here. This is pretty interesting, off of Iceland. Again, military training in Iceland, May 2nd, June 30th. Get over here, same thing. Let's see what we've got. May 2nd, June 30th, same thing, right? So it looks like we've got some military exercises happening up here in Iceland. And then if you get out to this general area, this is one that kind of caught my eye here. This is going to be danger area activated March 21st to March 22nd, 2023. So that's a whole year testing new weapons over the Atlantic Ocean. So I don't know if that's hypersonic test stuff we're doing out there or what, but typically you'll launch that stuff out over open water. They don't do it over land if they can help it. And then here's another one, just area 2, giving you kind of a window. Now, if you're looking at these lines, these green and purple lines, I think those are routes for international travel, aircraft routes. So, again, very pilot-centric in terms of this map. But, man, it is night and day compared to what we were looking at before on the My Radar. This really breaks into a whole different level of detail, which I think is really cool. But it's just so much to cover. We're just going to have to cherry-pick pieces here and there. So, okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about, as in the days of Noah. I just want to show you a couple things. Remember, when all the stuff was going down around the time Noah set sail, people were just kind of ignoring it. Everybody was living their life and doing what they do in that sinful nature. And so The interesting thing, and the reason I've gone over to Daigle.com is because I want to show you something. If you're not familiar with this, now Daigle is a research institute, so to speak, right? It's kind of a bunch of white hats that are, or gray beards, whatever you want to call them, industry experts, right? It's a pool of industry experts that basically go in and pull all kinds of different data and information, and they build it up on country-specific stuff. So you can look at how many aircraft Russia has. You know, you can look at combat aircraft, commercial aircraft, all kinds of stuff, different categories. Very good, accurate data. Now, the reason you may have heard of Daigle.com, if you haven't already, but some have, is because they made a forecast back a couple years ago that basically showed a massive depopulation. Now, I will tell you, it has changed. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because before this, when we looked at it, China and the U.S. both had their population numbers tank into the toilet. Now, I will tell you, it has since changed. And the reason I know that is because I remember looking at U.S. and China side by side, and it was a tremendous amount of their population disappearing according to their research, okay? So this originally was supposed to take place, this drop in population, back, started around 2015 with I think it was around 2018 they were expecting things to drop off. Well, guess what happened? Trump came into office, and then this number and everything forecast got pushed to the right. Now it's 2025, okay? Important because if you'll notice right here, United States, they're predicting a 68.5% reduction in population by the year 2025 here in the US. You see the UK, 77% population reduction. Ireland, 72%. What is going to happen? Puerto Rico, Germany. Look at the ones that take the biggest hit. Israel, almost half of Israel, 48.3% population gone, okay? What's interesting is you get down into China and Russia, and they are both doing pretty well, actually. Here's Russia right here. They have a 0.5 negative percent in terms of reduction. So it doesn't look like they're going to get much of an impact. China's the same way right here. You can see their head count number, a negative 1.6 reduction, which is very light, very small. So I don't know why they're predicting this stuff. But when you look at the World Economic Forum, you look at the WHO, you look at UN, you look at all this culmination of things that they are talking about moving forward, advance ahead of their schedule, right? And then you see these numbers, it definitely makes you kind of stand up and take notice, right? So anyway, this is out there. I will put a link to it. It's here in the description box after the video, so you guys can go look at it yourself. But it's very interesting data, to say the least, okay? All right, let's get over here to the ports, and we're going to start out here. I want to show you Shanghai and why we are looking at this. It's important to note Los Angeles and Long Beach are still very, very reduced in terms of their numbers, less than a dozen. You get up to San Francisco, it's the same thing going on. If you actually look at the ships themselves, it's not good because they, here you go. I mean, look at these. Hong Kong is the only one port that I've seen stuff come in from. I see nothing from the other ports in China, and Hong Kong is a sprinkle, onesie, twosies. May not even be anything on them. But you get over to Shanghai. Remember, they balked at the June 1 startup because they were worried that they were going to actually go right back into this zero COVID environment enforcement. And so, see, there's a lot of boats still sitting out here, folks. A lot. That is a ton. And those boats, remember, containers sitting on those, anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 per ship on average, okay? And so into Shanghai, I see a little bit of uptick in activity in the port here. Not too much, considering there's 22.4 million people there in Shanghai. You can see there are some things moving into the port area, and there are still a couple of oil boats, oil ships in there, boats. But nonetheless, it is very, very quiet for a country that is on the brink. It's not good. It doesn't look good. Now this one, look at the flow. This is absolutely insane. Look at the amount of ships in the Black Sea headed in and out of Russia. You tell me. Yeah, our sanctions are really hurting them. These guys haven't missed a beat, and I don't think we've impacted them at all. In fact, I think we've shot ourselves in the foot, as I showed you in that first article. But this is Constanta. So they say it's the grains. We will see. I'm not fully sold on that, but these are the ships sitting out here, and you can see very, very busy. That's not a big port, and so it is slammed. And you got all these folks sitting right here that may have empty containers. Could be no telling what. I doubt they have to be unloaded. They could be, but they may be there to take grain and roll out pretty quickly, assuming it's grain. But this seems to be the only port, and for some reason we got fighters over it, U.S. fighters. So just again, data point. So, all right, let's move over here to our marine vessel traffic. This is actually going to be the military vessels. It evidently came back, but they have tweaked it so you do not have the ability to drill down into this. I can click on this all day long. All I can look at is a high level, high altitude view of this aspect. Now, what they've done is, so you can see lots of circles, not as many arrows. A lot of stuff's parked, actually. But you get into the NATO exercise piece, and this one you can manipulate. Go figure, all right? So, but you'll notice I got nothing showing down here in the Black Sea. We know that's not accurate. These are just strictly NATO. So like I said, they've gone in and tweaked this website. So we may just kind of go away from it and just keep it in a back pocket for future reference. But you know, I don't know why they did this. But anyway, you can see Germany's pretty engaged here in terms of out floating around on warships in that general region. There's Estonia, Latvia. And then let me see if we've got any. I'm not seeing any Russian stuff. It's just all the NATO only, and that's it. So kind of cleans it up a little bit. But again, I don't know. It was a lot better before, and you could look at the stuff. I don't know why they've done what they've done, but anyway, it is what it is. So we'll move on. All right. So speaking of exercises, Rim of Pacific Exercise 2022. This is going to kick off at the end of this month and goes until about August. But it's the largest deployment or exercise in our history. So it's going to be a very big exercise. Lots of different countries getting involved in this, and I mean a lot. Right there off of the doorstep of China. So going to be interesting to see how this all shakes loose, but not a lot of room in that area. If you've noticed, if you get into that particular region, let me get over here. I'll just show you. Man, this thing is almost painful sometimes. I'm painful sometimes. All right. Okay, but this whole China Sea, this is the area they're going to be rolling in. Sea of Japan, but they're basically going to get right up on the doorstep, working with Taiwan, Japan, and a whole bunch of different navies from around the world that are going to be into this exercise. So that is going to get really interesting. You got Taiwan down here. Hard to see with all the ships, but this is Taiwan right here. So this is, yeah. So we'll just keep our eye on it, see what happens, what shakes loose, all right? Okay, let's get over to the cyber map real fast. You can see we appear to be on the offense here. If you look at this map in terms of cyber threat stuff, 19 million attacks on this day. That's just so far today. It's probably going to go up throughout the day, obviously. But notice the amount of stuff coming out of the United States. Yeah, because we're the victim. So very interesting data point there. And then, of course, over here on this side, which is a little bit different content, you can see we are getting peppered today pretty well also. So anyway, this is a map we're going to watch from a cyber war perspective. You know, we'll just kind of keep our eye on it because that is an attack that'll certainly take place. And probably right before we go to war, they will start to try and knock us out cyber-wise, and we'll be doing the same thing. So I expect you'll see a map like this to just be lit up, okay? All right, now, speaking of movement of aircraft, all right, we've got, looks like we've got 4 B-1B bombers that have landed at Anderson Air Force Base in Guam. I'm sure there is a sea of B-52s and B-2s there as well. That is all within striking distance right there to support the whole Asian Pacific thing, okay? All right, so if we look at Anderson, right here in Guam. Just kind of get a good look here. You can see troop movements coming inbound. So it looks like Ramstein is a spot in Europe where everything is getting processed through, and then Andersen is one of the spots besides Okinawa that seems to be very focused on troops coming in, being processed into the region. And so you can see we've got some arrivals here. This one coming in from Okinawa. That's an Omni Air, and then this one coming in from Hawaii. Another Omni Air 777-200 and a 67. And then it left there and went to Fort Worth. We've got another one Omni headed to Anchorage. We'll look at those on the map. This one headed to Brunei, 777-200. Those are all three of those are Omni. Again, troop movements for sure. And then a couple reach flights there rolling out of the area. And then we've got this one coming inbound. This is actually, let's see, that is another Omni Air coming in today. And NASA C-130, Wake Island. Don't know what that one's for. That may be weather-related stuff, but okay. Fort Bliss, again, uptick. So we've got a lot of troop movement going on around the world right now. This is one that is starting to kind of see that uptick again. Arrival, this is Delta Airlines coming in from Hartsfield. We got a Atlas Air coming in from Portsmouth, New Hampshire. This one coming in from the Tonopah, Nevada test range. That's going to be a National Cargo 757-200, and then a Reach aircraft coming in from Pittsburgh. And they are headed to, this one's giving you an approximate. Camber flight doesn't tell you where they go, never does. Atlas Air looks like it's headed to March Air Force Base in California. And then Reach is headed to New Hampshire. And then you can see the scheduled departures here in Northwest Arkansas. That's a Delta airline. I don't know if that's troops or if that is related to movement of immigrants. Not really sure. This definitely is troops coming into Fort Worth Alliance. And you can see this one coming in, scheduled from, that's an Omni Air coming in from Greenville, Spartanburg. All right, over here to Ramstein, just to kind of give you a bead on the movement in Europe. You can see we've got arrivals from Baltimore, Washington, Dover Air Force Base. And then that one looks like UPS actually returning back to Dover. And then we've got this Camber flight. Again, that's a scheduled departure, 747-400. And I don't know who's flying that. That could be Atlas, could be Kalata Air. It just depends. You never can tell when it goes under that Camber nomenclature or name, call sign. It gets kind of wiped on the other side of it, so you don't know whose aircraft it is. All right. This over here to Joint Base McGuire. That's in New Hampshire. Just to show you, got one Reach that rolled out, went to Joint Base Andrews. Not seeing anything else there. Very quiet on that side of it. Now, here are your Camber flights right now. You've got one coming out of Bahrain. We've got one Cologne, and then Biggs Army Airfield. So that one is, if I look at it coming out of there in that trajectory, my guess is this is a troop replen, more than likely headed to Guantanamo Bay. You'll never see it on the board in Guantanamo Bay because they hide it. But this is about the time. You usually see 3 or 4 different aircraft will pepper in for troop replen, right? They do it about every 3 months. And so this looks to be one headed out of Biggs, rolling into Guantanamo Bay. If I had to track it, that's where I think it's headed. Just because you don't see them on that trajectory very often without headed into here, okay? Other one coming out of Middle East, and then this one looks to be headed down south into 31,000 feet, 581 knots, MD-11. Looks to be headed into maybe Egypt. Well, we'll see. Libya over here, so yeah, maybe headed into Egypt, okay? All right, here are your Brits, and you can see they are flying folks out of Poland and back into their home country. And then we've got one down here, looks to be over Turkey right now. Doesn't look to be landing. It's at 31,000 feet, 475 knots or miles per hour. I don't know what that is on there, but anyway, this is your Mediterranean down here, Black Sea up here. All right. Okay, now to the Ruskies. We've got 2 flights, RSD-4, and then this one here, this 567. We'll take a closer look real fast at the first one. Armenia, and it looks to be, let me back that up just a tad. Yeah, you can see it is headed out right there on the border. Interesting. Don't know where that one's headed. Maybe it's moving around this weather. And then let's go back to this other one here. We'll take a quick look and see where this one is headed. Again, you don't see the Ruskies very often on here. You certainly don't see the fighter jets from their standpoint. These are just strictly, yeah, it looks like it's coming out of, oh, where are we coming from? St. Petersburg, and 8,300 feet, looks to be headed into Moscow. So, but yeah, these are going to be your dignitary flights. This will be just like our SAM flights, the blue and whites, whatever it may be, but this is going to be basically like their Congress or whatever it is they have over there, okay? And it could be Joint Chiefs, you know, somebody like high military ranking officials kind of thing as well. So this is going to be your Omni flights. Again, we're just talking about these. This one's coming, it's a Hawaii bound. It looks like we've got this one headed to March. We've got another one coming out of Guam, rolling into Fort Worth Alliance. And then this one just took off out of Anchorage, Alaska, headed to Seattle. All troops. Okay. And then over here to the Swift Airs, just to show you, most of our stuff has been south of the border, except for this one. Not really sure. Okay, that's headed from Laredo to Alexandria. That's a 72-hour holding facility. And so it, now I know I did show the fact that we're busing people, and we're still sending a ton of people out of or into the country, but we're also, it looks like we are also selectively sending folks back down south as well, and that's what appears to be going on with these flights coming from the border locations, right? So you can see this one headed back to Bogota from Laredo, and then this one's near San Salvador, but don't really have a beat on where it's headed. So okay, now we were talking just a minute ago, I want to show you that actually turned into be a 4-ship. These are the 4 aircraft. They're flying under call sign Gray 20. Those are Army BE-20s, but you can see they have, and I put my persistence on so I didn't lose them. But they maybe they could be headed down here. It could be headed to Puerto Rico since they are starting to kick out. Normally they stay in this range if they're coming to the spa. It doesn't appear that way, but that's a little 4-ship rolling out. If you get a close look at those aircraft, you can see all the array of antennas hanging off of this one. Now the other ones, let's see if I can get the Gray 10, Gray 20. Let me see if this one has anything on it. Yeah, there we go. This is the one you can notice all the stuff that's hanging off of it a little better, but these are reconnaissance birds. This is going to be probably their intelligence community. Same kind of aircraft you saw that we were pointing out. That's that RC-12 Huron. It's a Beech. Again, it's just a reconnaissance bird. Lots of electronic suite on this one. So, okay, I think we have covered everything. Let me get back over here to Skyglass real fast before we exit out of here. Again, that number's hovering about 388, and very active, busy day to day in terms of what we've had in the past. It's been a little bit of lower numbers. So, all right, well, listen. Stay frosty. This is going to be an interesting time. The summers are coming up here. Summer is coming up here, and I expect things to get really stupid and crazy. So just we'll keep our pulse on this. Getting into, let me see if I pull this back up real fast. This right here is going to give us kind of an insight on what's really shaking loose. And so I'm watching this board closely because it gives a good indicator on activity military-wise. So when we see these flights, we see them going to these locations, we kind of know what they are doing to support it. So anyway, all right, listen, that's going to be it. You guys stay frosty out there, keep that powder dry, and I will see you on Wednesday. God bless. Monkey out. Check out the latest gear and products at monkeyworxus.com.